you wonderful people of Earth. My name is Clara, and I am the host of the Lady Audio Podcast. Thank you for joining me this week. I have a great show for you today with two very talented musicians who record their own music. Our first guest is Jazzykat, who writes and records house and chill-out music with influences from classical, jazz, funk, and trip-hop. And our second guest has a birthday tomorrow, July 4th. Happy birthday! She goes by the name Lady C, and she is a multi-instrumentalist. Her music comes from a magical universe and offers a great blend of real instruments and electronic synths. Before we dive into the interviews, I have a couple of announcements. One is that the Lady Audio email is moving to once per month, rather than once per week. I plan on sending out an email update to all my subscribers towards the end of the month, and it'll still be packed with all the insider info, as I promised before. So please subscribe at ladyaudio.com. And the podcast itself will still be aired weekly. And you can subscribe for weekly updates if you wish on iTunes, Podbean, or YouTube. Thank you. And the second announcement I have is about a super cool device that is now on my wish list. It's the Stomp Light. Basically, it's a stomp box for stage lighting. And I haven't gigged in a while because I've been busy recording and moving and stuff like that. But I plan on having a show or three around the end of summer or early autumn. And I'd love to get this little light stomp box and then add that to have some more visuals to the show. And I already have some lights and a fog machine, and this little stomp light only takes a minute or two to set up, and once it's set up, I'll be able to control a mini light show right from beside my mic stand. And no, Stomp Light isn't paying me for this. I just wanted to share something that was on my wish list. And I have a little more on that list, like a projector, some JBL Century speakers, a working vintage Marantz receiver. I wanted to emphasize the word working, but I forgot to. A working vintage Marantz receiver. I don't want to fix it, thank you. And I want also the Electro Harmonix MEL9. It's a tape replay machine Mellotron stomp box. And I'd like to have more listeners to the show, so please subscribe and share. And I'd like to have a Black Lion audio mic pre, and there's more, I'm sure, but that's all I can think of right now. And I wanted to ask you, what's on your wish list? Send me a tweet. I am at Clara Efrona on Twitter, or just visit ladyaudio.com and click on the Twitter link there. If you are into audio and would like to be on the show, just send me an email. My email address is clara@ladyaudio.com. All right, people, let's get on to the show. Okay, bye. Ooh, oh, we are here today. I don't know why I'm talking like that. That doesn't make any sense at all.
You're a soprano.
I wish I were a soprano.
Oh, you're not a soprano? You're an alto?
No, yeah, I'm something else. Yeah. Our guest today is Jazzykat. Jazzykat writes and records her own house and chill-out music, which is available on Wet New Records. Jazzykat, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. Will you please give us a brief bio on yourself and how you got started with writing and recording your musical ideas?
Okay. Well, I am an electronic musician who creates chill-out, electronica, dance, techno, and a member of Wet New Records. And I also have music on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Google Plus, and Django Radio. I have a new CD entitled Time, Friend or Foe from Wet New Records. My last EP entitled Fantasy Trip was the main event on Radio Coolio in Canada, hosted by DJ CJ, and received excellent reviews. I began listening to electronic music about 5 years ago, and because I enjoyed it so much, I decided to learn how to use Ableton. I was influenced by Tosca, Fragile State, Audio Lotion, Jimpster, and others.
Cool. Yeah, this is a genre that I am not so familiar with. I like the experimental stuff also. And but when you're recording with your music, how many tracks does a song typically have?
Well, actually, it always varies. It can be anywhere from 12 to 24 tracks, depending on how many instruments, melodies, and sound effects that you have incorporated into your track. So, sometimes if I really get carried away, if it sounds really good and, hey, this is really cool, I could get up to 24. If it sounds really good at 12 or 15, then I'll leave it at that. Just what sounds the best.
Yeah, I agree. And when you're layering those tracks, how do you keep things organized?
Well, that's why I love Ableton. It's easy to put your instruments, such as drums, percussions, hi-hats, etc., into their own perspective track, and in doing so, you can label what they are. I love Ableton. It's really a great program.
Yeah, so you relabel the tracks when you're like as you go along because right. Like, oh, okay.
While I'm composing, while things, while sounds and things are coming to me, or I'm taking them off the synthesizer, such as Dune or whatever, and things seem to be sounding right as I listen to the drums go with the percussions, etc. I label each one as I go along, and then if I don't like that, I'll delete it, or I'll put maybe certainly more in. I always end up with more than less. So, but because of the way Ableton does their tracks, it's really simple. It's a great program.
Yeah. I name things when I'm going along in Logic also. I have a template that sometimes I'll use from the beginning if I know it's just going to be, drums, bass, and synthesizer and a vocal, and I have a little template for that. But sometimes with the other songs, I have to label as I'm going along, and so that's why I wanted to ask you, like, if you keep, because some people keep the name of the track the same as what is the default. Like when you choose a particular sound or whatever, there's like the default name, and then you always have the option of, changing that. But I just wanted to find out how you keep things organized in your projects.
Well, if I have if I'm on a drum kick, let's say, and I'm starting to compose a song, and I feel like, oh, this has got to have a kick. This can't exist unless I put a kick in it. And I put my kick in along with a couple of other beats. We'll just call them different beats. And that's how I do that, because I know the difference between, like I put like beat 1, and then I could put kick. And then I put beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, percussion 1, or percussion 2, and so on. So I know if it gets real technical, then I'll put something, whatever the name of it is, but usually you don't have to do that. As long as you know that it's a drum, it's a drum, it's a percussion, it's hi-hats, it's sound effects. If it's FX, that's, sound effects. And Vox, VOX, that's when somebody says a little something like, I'm in here, and
Yeah.
they say these real cool little things, and a lot of times you can't even understand what they're saying, but it's got such a cool beat, and you think, oh wow, this goes perfect. Who cares what they're saying? So I do a
Yeah.
lot of that too.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the loops. Also, what are your favorite loops to use?
Well, let's see. I enjoy the percussion and special effects loops because it gives my music a well-rounded sound as well as an interesting flair. I've heard too many electronic songs that are redundant, and you hear the same loop being used constantly instead of giving the song its own personality. Each song I compose is like a story to me, and the name of the song usually coincides with the sound you hear. Hopefully, it will be upbeat, catchy, melodic, and interesting. And a lot of my fans tell me exactly that's why they like my music because every every track, or not track, but every time I change an instrument, that makes it more interesting instead of saying, da 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 da, I go to da 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 da, and I keep it interesting like that. And that's evidently my fans seem to like it, so that's how I do that.
So, speaking of getting more of an original sound, do you use any plugins on the instruments that you mix the song, or do you just use the dry instruments when you're mixing?
Well, that's kind of a hard question for me to answer, but I'll answer it like this. That's where Dune comes into play. It gives you the choice of making your own bass melody or finding one that suits the sound that you're looking for from the sound bank provided. You can choose literally, depending on how many things that you have put on Dune, but that's mainly, that's mainly what I go by is, having different melodies and whatever suits the sound that, that I'm looking for.
I see. So how does that work? Like, what's the workflow behind that for working with Dune?
Say I'm doing a song and it's got a melody, but I think it needs a little something else to go with the melody. That's when I incorporate Dune because they have some arpeggios. They have, like I said, bass. They have, oh goodness, they have arp. They have, which I really like arp. Percussions. They have like 12 different instruments that you can incorporate into just what I call a vanilla song, which is just your bare, like you said, your bare bass and this and that, that you throw together. Then that's when the Dune comes into play, and you can put a little bit of gated in it or arpeggios in it, and that's what fills out the song and makes it sound interesting.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like that because I think it does give your music more of an original sound as opposed to just, the same loop that everyone else uses.
Now, I'm always looking for different drum beats because I'm a real drum freak. I've loved drums all my life. I learned how to play them, from a boyfriend. A boyfriend of mine kind of taught me how, and he was excellent. He used to be on television all the time. Anyway, so I've always really loved the drums.
So by playing drums, you mean like a regular trap kit with a kick and a snare and a hi-hat and all that?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to do that. I haven't played in a long, long time, so I don't have a drum set anymore. But about the only thing I have now is just a piano, and of course my piano that I play on with my Dune. I don't want to call it a piano. I don't know what you call it. Anyway,
Oh,
a little
yeah,
gizmo that, we were talking about that the other day. You know how you can
yeah.
make
You have
octaves
an
go way up high and down and all that.
Oh yeah, it's you have an
Yeah,
axiom
right.
air. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
right.
Yeah, I have
Hmm.
the same one too. I think we have a different amount of keys, but yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. That's cool. Yeah, I love that thing. Oh
I
man.
do too. I do too. I just go crazy on it. Well, see if you have some different instruments on it, then you can, and I'm sure that you do. You can really, be selective at, what goes with. Say you're playing a song, you're making a song in your middle of the song, and you think that lacks. I need something right. I need some, and usually I can hear it in my ear because I have a good ear for music, and I can hear, hey, a pad would sound good there. Not loud or anything, but just a blend, in with the maybe the hi-hats and the percussion in behind. It's all melding it together. And those instruments are really good for that on the Dune. I really like it. I suggest everybody buy one.
There's a really nice bass sound. Speaking of getting good sounds, there's a really nice bass sound on the song Cherry Shake off of your newest album, Time, Friend or Foe. How did you get that sound?
I'm using synthesizers and equalization to get that sound. Yeah.
Okay, so you did like modify it after you got the bass sound, and then you modified it with EQ afterwards?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I really like that bass sound on that. And also, I like the sound effects on Eccentric Minds. Like you were saying, you have an idea, and so you wanted to, like with the title of the song, and then that particular sound effect, it almost sounds like a door opening to one of those.
It is. That's exactly what it is. Right. You got it.
Right.
I'm glad it sounds that good. Really, I am, because I lucked out on this. I was checking some samples one day and heard this fabulous FX sound, and that sounded like a door opening and closing, one of those big, gray, fat metal doors, and that you find in old buildings. And that was when I decided to make the song around the opening and closing sound effect. And I wanted it to be mysterious. So I found the perfect intro, that goes, da, 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 how the first of it starts.
Yeah.
And then the photo that I found was perfect, because it was a picture, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's a photo of a deserted old dingy steel stairway, one you might find leading to the back entrance of an old building in a 40s detective movie.
Right.
So that turned out really great, and I really like that song. And that's the only type of song that I've ever done like that, and I was just messing around to see if I could get into something like industrial, because personally, I love industrial music. I really do.
Yeah.
And I was just, seeing what I could come up with. And I haven't done anything after that, because I haven't found anything that I thought would really sound that good. So,
I see. Yeah, I would definitely recommend you to write a little more industrial music too, because I think you have a good feel for having the idea, like the name Eccentric Minds, and then the music really suits that. It's almost like you're stepping into someone's eccentric mind.
That's exactly what I was doing. I was trying to make it sound really mysterious. I wanted it to sound like that, like an old detective movie.
Yeah. And speaking of time, friend, or foe, coming back to that, the sound quality of this new release is like, I think it's a lot better than some of your previous releases. It has like more of a warmth and wider sound. And I was just wondering, how did you go about getting the final mix before you released it to the mastering stage?
Okay. Actually, all of my songs, this is what I do when I'm starting a song. I compose the song, saving it as I combine the sounds I want, everything, especially the drums, must sound perfect with the instruments and the sound effects. I continue saving my work, and when I feel the song is exactly what I want, I record it. I put on my headphones and listen to the recorded project. If the song sounds like I think it should, I then mix it using fab filters. After mixing the track, I listen again, adjusting any instruments that may be too loud or too soft. Then it goes to Allmark for post-mixing and mastering. And that's pretty much my life as a composer. That's the way I do all my songs.
Yeah, when we spoke previously, when you were talking about how you're coming up with that final mix, you were saying you would go like into the kitchen to do the dishes or something and listen to it from a distance also?
Right, or I may be folding clothes in the room, in the room next door, so I can hear it very well. I turn it up a little bit, and no matter what I'm doing, I may be walking on the treadmill. In fact, I do that a lot, and listen to the song and walk to the beat of my songs. And, if the hi-hats are too high or the drum beat is overpowering, or you know what I'm talking about. Everything has to sound melding together. Allmark taught me that, and he taught me well, because when I first started out, I was gung-ho, and all you could hear was ba-boom, boom, boom, ba-boom, boom, boom, ba-boom, boom, boom, da, 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 da.
Right.
And it's funny now that I listen to my old stuff. But anyway, that's how I do that.
Yeah, and I think that that's good because it takes time, and I don't think people realize how much time it can take just to mix one song.
Right.
You have an idea and then you record it, and then when the mixing stage comes, it's like, okay, I'm going to listen to it with the headphones. Now I'm going to listen to it with speakers, and now I'm going to listen to it from the other room. And it's like you're listening to the same songs and stuff over again just to try to get that mix and doing all of the adjustments and everything. So it's good to hear that, especially from an electronic musician, that you're taking the time to actually do that, because there are tools these days, and I think several people in the electronic genre use them, that are just automated. They'll do the automated mastering, or they'll just have all of the tracks the same level, or and so you actually taking that time to, spend that time with your music before they go to mastering, I think is really, really important. So
that's right, it is.
And it definitely shows with time, friend or foe. And I wanted to ask you, I know which song I want to play, and that's Cherry Shake, but which song off of your new album would you like for me to play at the end of the show?
I listened to them again and again when I was getting ready for this. And I'm sure that whomever buys this CD will hopefully love all the songs as much as I do. I can't say, because many of my fans have said they play this CD at home while they're having dinner or in their car, or whatever device they may use for music. And this the CD sounds great. Hallmark always makes sure of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought you might like to know this, Clara, that I use JBL speakers.
Oh, cool.
That's very
okay.
important.
And are they monitors, or are they just like stereo speakers?
Yeah, they're stereo speakers. They're not real big, but they're very condensed. What am I trying to say? Clear, like bookshelf speakers. Unbelievably, it's not a great big speaker or at all.
Okay.
I compose in a pretty big room. I put all my songs, my computer and everything is together in a big room. It's my den, and I have a lot of open space there. So I don't really need, the big speakers, because these speakers, even though they're not big speakers, they sound really good. Everything is really clear. And anyway, I thought you'd like to know that that's what I use.
That's really cool. I have myself, I have some stereo speakers also, and they're just these TIAC speakers. And the thing is that I try to, when I'm mixing, I'll listen through those speakers. I'll listen through my studio monitors, and I'll also listen to the track just through my computer speakers, and try to get to sound good on all of those different platforms.
Right.
But that's cool that you're using JBL's just regular old bookshelf stereo speakers. That's excellent, man. That's excellent.
Well, Allmark, his post-mixing and mastering, helps.
Yeah.
Although, I will say that most of the time when I bring him mixed things, it's pretty, I've pretty well done all that I can do for it. And very seldom does he say, this doesn't sound good. Usually he says, this is great, and so then he goes from there doing his post-mixing and mastering. And I haven't learned how to master. I do know how to mix pretty good, but I haven't learned how to master yet.
Yeah, I haven't really learned how to master yet either. I try, but I sometimes I don't think my ears are refined enough to actually do it. I can hear the difference when someone else remasters something, but it's difficult for me to actually get in there and go, how much compression do I need for this? In what frequency range? Like, it just gets kind of a little too much for me at that point.
Well, if you sit with somebody like I have with him all the time, ever since I started trying to make music, I watched him master enough that I know exactly why he's doing what he is. I used to ask him questions. Why are you putting that compressor on? Or, why are you doing this or that? But I learned by listening and watching, I know exactly what he's going to do, usually before he does it. So it also helps you understand mastering. If you watch somebody do it, you understand it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as the song goes, honey, you can play Cherry Shake.
Okay.
I love them all.
Okay. That's the song that I will play for sure then. I'm glad you approved.
Yeah. I like all the songs.
Yeah. So where can people go to listen and purchase your music?
Okay. We're in the process of making me a website, a personal website. I'm tired of Facebook. You can forget about them. And here's the link. Write this down, type it, or whatever you want to do. It's all one word. JazzykateElectronica.com.
JazzyKatElectronica.com.
Right.
That's a nice website name.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple and it has your name in it.
Right. There are so many people out there that are trying to copy me, but they're spelt in one way or another. There are a couple that spells it the same way I do, but I don't know how they're getting by with that, because most of them aren't even, musicians. let's see, also, let's see here. Oh, on this website, when we get it finished, it's probably going to be another week before we can get it up, and we'll let you know when.
Okay.
You can find a number of my singles, EPs, albums, and this CD on this website. I have more music on several other websites, but they don't have the good quality that this link provides. And also, I have a link that you might want that is, it's the Jazzykat Wet New Records bandcamp.com/music.
Okay.
That's my official Wet New record link. And,
Okay.
most of the songs, I have a lot more on just Bandcamp, but they don't, like I said, they don't sound as good as the good sound that you get from Wet New.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when you're listening to CDs and once you actually download from Bandcamp and you get the high quality files, they sound a lot better than the streaming. It's like night and day.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why some people, they're like, it sounds the same. It's like, no, I'm sorry. It does not sound the same. Jazzykat, thank you so much for taking the time today to come on the show. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I could use some more fans.
Okay. Well, we'll try to get those for you if we just, we'll put this podcast out there and try to get the word out as much as we can.
Thank you very much.
Our guest this week is Lady C. Lady C is a visual artist in addition to creating music with a wonderful blend of electronic sounds and real instruments like guitar and drums. Welcome to the show, Lady C. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, it's really nice to meet you and to join you today.
Thanks. I'm glad you took the time out of your day to join me on this beautiful solstice day.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
I wanted to dive right into the questions here. When I followed the link to listen to the visual album Imagination on your YouTube channel, I was pleased to find a great meditative feeling. What's the story behind the visual album idea and the video?
Well, the visual album was an idea that came to me from a friend of mine named Mara, and she's a visual artist and art therapist, and she really liked the music that I'd written, and she said, this would be perfect in a meditative video, and you can put it on YouTube, and I'll showcase your visual art as well, so people have something to look at while they meditate or do yoga or just sit there and take time out of their day for themselves.
I was noticing that it does have that meditative feeling, and it wasn't until I scrolled down a little bit and I read the notes in the description that it mentioned about being meditative. So it was really funny. I was like, wow, it's like a meditation. And then I scrolled down, it's like a meditation.
Yes, that was the point.
What do you use to get your synthesizer sounds?
I use a couple of things. I use some of the synth sounds in Logic Pro 9, which is the recording program that I currently use to record all my music. And I also use synthesizer sounds from my Kawai stage piano MP4, which is a performance piano for live, and you can also record with it through MIDI and direct in. So you can use the patch sounds that are on the actual keyboard and record them inside Logic.
And do you run those sounds out as stereo through like a stereo cable, or how do you get the sounds from the Kawai to Logic?
I actually run it through my mixer, my PV mixer. And then I just send it through a cord, and it goes directly into one of the jacks on the back of my computer.
Oh, okay. All right, that's cool. Yeah, because I know with MIDI it's pretty easy. You can just plug it in, but then when you want to get the actual sounds from inside the keyboard. Sometimes that can pose challenges with whether or not to use a left and a right, or whether it has a stereo cable, or whatever that is. So
Usually I send it in mono, and then I'll either send it to the left or right, or do another track where I send it to both sides. So I can make it sound like stereo.
yeah, yeah. But sometimes I like those internal sounds because they're different than what you can get out of Logic or any other kind of program.
Exactly.
It just gives it more of an original sound. So
Well, I like being original.
yeah. What are the names of some of your favorite synth sounds?
Oh, one of my favorite is just called Hybrid Morph Synth. And I like to just open that up and just play with the cursors and morph everything around and experiment and just play around, go, ooh, what does that do? Ooh, that sounds cool. Ooh, look, it goes swoosh. I'm going to do something. That's usually how it starts. The other one that I really like is the sculpture modeling synth. And it's this sort of this setup where it's a big kind of square, and it has like if you want a woody sound, you bring the red dot closer to the wood where it says wood, or if you want it to sound more metal, you bring it down more towards the metal, and it's sort of like a graph. And how you want it to sound. You want it to sound wetter, drier. You just drag it around. And then you can play with the cursors around it to make it sound bigger, smaller, tighter, more delay, more attack. And you can just make your own sound, make your own patch sound, and then save it.
Yeah. And then once you bring that, or once you find a sound that you like, after you save it and stuff, do you use any plugins on the channel?
I actually don't know what they are. I'm actually still fairly new to recording, and I'm mostly self-taught. So I actually don't know.
Oh, cool. All right. So that's really cool. I do have a little bit of experience with, using plugins on a track and stuff. So I can definitely show you how to do that. I like to use, sometimes, depending on the type of track, but I really like to use EQ and compression afterwards. So if I find a sound that I like, I'll record it, and then I'll mess with it even further by adding EQ and compression to the track, and maybe even an extra delay or reverb to that as well. So
Reverb. I do a bit of that.
Yeah.
I have this I have a plugin called the Space Designer. It's a very deep thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I don't know if you use Logic.
I love that. I love
that's
Space Designer. It's like one of my favorites.
That's how I get most of my stuff. The what's it called? It's like the moving textures and the drum transformer. And those moving textures, a lot of those are what I use to create the ambient sounds in my music.
Okay. Because I really like the plate reverb sounds in there. I think they work really well with vocals. And there are a lot of plate reverbs out there. There are a couple by Universal Audio that I would love to have, but they're pretty expensive.
I bet.
But some of the Space Designer, just like the default plate reverbs, are really fun to play with. I used one, I don't know if you know this, I can show you if you'd like. Within that plugin, you can reverse the reverb. So it comes out like this kind of weird effect. And I used that on one of the latest Jazzykat songs called When Lightning Strikes. And towards the end, I was like, what am I going to do to this vocal to make it more trippy? And so all I did was just reverse the reverb, and it gives this effect like I start to sing before the actual notes come out of my mouth. It's really interesting.
Oh, Tool, I think, did something similar with that, with one of their songs called The Pot.
Oh, I don't know about it. I'll have to listen to that.
you hear it's sort of like a ghost first, like the "Who are you to?" and then you hear him starting to actually sing in the foreground.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a foreshadowing.
Yeah, so I'll have to show you where that button is, or you'll be able to find it when you open up Space Designer. I think it's on like the upper right-hand side, and it says reverse. And so, you try that out and see what you think about it. It's a really fun effect.
I will definitely try that probably after this interview.
And then
Not joking.
you do analog as well, analog sounds. So what types of mics do you use for your drum sounds, like in Alien Approach? The guitar sound in Tropical Sunrise? Like what kind of mics do you use?
I actually only use one mic, the mic that I'm talking to you on. It is a Shure Beta 58A, and that is the only mic that I currently use to record all my analog sounds.
Cool. Right now, I am using, on my microphone, I'm using an SM58. And I was going to use a 57, but I went for the 58 because I couldn't find the 57 today. It's somewhere around here. And as soon as I get more treatment in this room so it isn't so reverberant, as soon as I get that all set up, I'm going to switch back to using the Aston Spirit microphone. I really like that. I just got it and I haven't really been able to use it because where I moved to, this room is just too reverberant, and the mic is too sensitive and picks up too much. Yeah. When you I like the way that you pan instruments and you do get more of a wide sound, especially being new to recording. And when you're mixing, do you mostly use headphones or do you use studio monitors?
Right now, I actually just use my headphones, but I'm actually in the market to get some studio monitors. I'd like to upgrade.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing the same soon myself. And I was talking with Allmark about that, of WEATNU, in case anyone out there doesn't know yet. It's We Are the New Underground. And Allmark I interviewed him recently, and he had some great suggestions for some studio monitors at a good price. And they were JBLs. I can't remember the model number right now, but he's getting some really great sounds now out of those monitors. So definitely.
Yeah, his stuff is absolutely a breath of fresh air to listen to.
Yeah, for sure. And then, unlike many artists, you master your own mixes. Do you like to let the final mix rest a while before you master it, or do you just dive in and master right away?
It actually kind of depends on the song. Generally, I like to leave them like at least overnight, like at least sleep on it. I might want to dive into it the next day, but generally I want to leave them a couple days, like not even listen to them, like do something completely different and then come back to them. But sometimes I challenge myself to write a song in a day. And so like just from start to finish, just to see, can I do it? And just have some fun. And I just go and do it. And I know what I want to do. I know how I want it to sound. And I just do it. And I go, yeah, I like it. It's done.
Yeah, it's with Jazzykat. Mostly what I've done is most of the mixing, and then my husband does a lot of the mastering from that stage. Because I think I'm better at the editing and picking out the sounds that I want for a particular guitar, and especially for my vocals. I usually will process my own vocals and everything. But then once we hit closer to the final mix, we'll bounce it down and we'll listen to it, and then we'll put it away for at least like a couple of days, and then open it back up again, and then listen to it with fresh ears. And it almost sounds like one word: fresh ears. Fresh ears.
It does.
Well, we like to listen to it with fresh ears, and and then we'll start the mastering process from there. And normally he'll get in there and just add a little bit of compression or add a little bit of EQ to kind of pull out or draw back in certain frequencies. But once you start getting into more of mastering, you're going to be in for a real treat, because there's so much to learn there. It's incredible.
I actually really want to learn. It is something that I've been wanting to get into for a really long time.
Yeah, there are some great books out there. And I'm going to have a podcast coming out next week with Olaf, and he's a mastering engineer. And he explains a lot about dynamics and stuff when you reach the mastering stage. So I would definitely listen to that, because a lot of the mastering books or mastering tutorials that you can come across out there, these are already experienced people, and sometimes the acronyms that they use, like, I don't know what they mean and stuff, and they're just too advanced. But Olaf really breaks it down in the podcast for me, so it's a good learning experience.
Well, I'll definitely be tuning in for that.
Cool. And then, what is the name of your next release, and when will it be released?
The name of my next release is called Inspiration, and it is actually my debut album. It is been a long time coming. It is going to be released on July the 4th, probably around midnight, because okay. I like to be mysterious and cool like that, I guess. What else can I say? This was the question that I didn't know what to say.
Well, tell me a little bit about what inspired you to write an album called Inspiration.
Well, it started off with the EP beforehand, Imagination. That started off as a challenge. There's a challenge online called FOM, or February Artist Writing Month. And it basically is a whole bunch of people from all over the world come together on the internet and just pledge to try to write 14 songs during the month of February in 28 days. So a song every other day, just to try and be prolific for once. I didn't get to 14. I only got 6. But most of those songs ended up being on the EP Imagination. Only a couple of them I did not write. Power of the Q and Magic Garden I had written before I started FALM. So those I did not include in the challenge, but I included them on the album because they worked in context.
And then, so that's the EP. And then for the album, what more are you putting in there?
Well, the album is sort of a full circle self-reflection of my life so far, because so many things have happened, and I feel like I'm in a state of metamorphosis, and I'm finally becoming the person that I wanted to be. Sort of, a caterpillar becoming a butterfly sort of thing. And all the songs are inspired by the people that have helped me along this journey. And so it's written for me, and it's also not for me. It's for the people in my life that have helped me heal and who have helped me find my solace and my happiness. So this album is also for them.
Nice. That's really great.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to say to encourage people who are thinking about starting out with recording their own musical ideas?
Yes. Dive in, experiment, have fun. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Get messy. Go, ooh, what does that button do? And press it. Mess up a complete project and go, I don't like it, and delete the whole thing. Do that. Don't be afraid to mess up and make all those mistakes, because that's how you're going to make the art that you really want to make.
Yeah,
and make so much art that you don't have any friends.
Yeah, when you dive into the realm of recording music, it can really take over your life.
Oh, yeah, but it's so worth it.
It is really worth it. When you sit back and you listen to something that you did and you're like, man, I made that,
Mm-hmm.
It really sounds good. And if a little radio station picks it up somewhere and you're like, hey, listen to it through the radio station. Wow, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to share. I like writing music for myself, but I like sharing it with others because I want to brighten people's day. And, it's a really sad time that we live in right now, and I don't want people to be sad anymore. So I want to write music that they can find solace in, where they can find peace in, and remember what it's like to be happy.
Yeah, that's a good reason to do it, that's for sure. So where can people go to listen to and to purchase your music?
Right now, you can listen to it on Bandcamp. That's ladycuniverse.bandcamp.com.
Lady C Universe. Okay, so I'll post that in the show notes, and I'll also post your YouTube page in the show notes as well.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. Lady C, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show, and I really appreciate you chatting with me today.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to speak with you. I learned a lot, and I think that's a breath of fresh air. I think that's very rare in an interview. So thank you very much.
Sure, no problem.